Jake Morrison stared at the massive ship floating in the darkness of space. It was 3 times larger than his own vessel, the UES Horizon. The alien ship had strange markings on its hull and looked like it had been through a terrible battle. Smoke drifted from several holes in its armor. "Captain, we're picking up life signs," said Dr. Lisa Carter from her station. "Whatever's in there is still alive." Jake rubbed his chin and thought carefully. This was the first alien ship humans had ever found. His orders were to explore and report back to Earth Command. But those life signs meant living beings who might need help. "Are there any weapons pointed at us?" Jake asked his weapons officer. "No, sir, the ship looks dead in the water. No power readings from any weapon systems." Jake made his decision. "Lisa, get your medical kit ready. Ryan, bring your translation gear. We're going aboard." Tech Sergeant Ryan Phillips looked nervous. "Sir, shouldn't we call for backup first?" "Those life signs are getting weaker," Lisa said. "If we wait for backup, whoever's in there might die." 20 minutes later, Jake floated through the airlock of the alien ship with Lisa and Ryan behind him. The inside was dark except for their helmet lights. The walls were made of some kind of metal they had never seen before. Everything was built for creatures much larger than humans. They followed the life sign readings down a long hallway. The gravity was heavier than Earth normal, making each step harder. Jake could hear his heart beating in his helmet. "The readings are coming from up ahead," Lisa whispered. They found him in what looked like a prison cell. The alien was huge, at least 8 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His body was covered in wounds and dried blood. He wore damaged armor that looked like it was made for battle. "My God," Lisa breathed. "He's been tortured." The alien's eyes opened when their lights hit his face. They were bright yellow and filled with pain. He tried to sit up but fell back down with a groan. Jake stepped forward slowly, his hands empty and visible. "Hello, we're here to help." The alien spoke in a voice like grinding rocks. Jake couldn't understand the words, but the tone was full of suspicion and fear. Ryan quickly set up his translation device. It would take time to learn the alien's language, but it could pick up basic meanings from tone and simple words. "He's asking if we're here to kill him," Ryan said after a few minutes. Jake shook his head and pointed to Lisa's medical bag. "Tell him we want to help heal his injuries." The alien, who they would later learn was named Zarthok, stared at them with confusion. In his world, enemies didn't help each other. The strong killed the weak. That was the way things had always been. Lisa moved forward carefully. "I need to look at his wounds. Tell him I'm a healer." When Ryan translated, Zarthok's eyes went wide. With shock, he tried to speak but only managed a few broken words. "He's asking why we would help him," Ryan said. "He keeps saying something about honor and death." Jake knelt down next to the huge alien. "Because it's the right thing to do." Over the next hour, Lisa worked to clean and bandage Zarthok's wounds. The alien watched every move with amazement. When Lisa gave him pain medicine, he actually tried to refuse it at first. "He doesn't understand kindness," Lisa said quietly. "Someone did terrible things to him." As Ryan's translation device learned more of the language, they began to understand Zarthok's story. He was a warrior from something called the Kethvar Empire. His people were conquerors who had taken over 3 star systems by force. Zarthok had been left to die because he refused to follow orders. His commanders had told him to kill prisoners who had surrendered, but something inside him couldn't do it. In his culture, this made him a traitor. "They were just farmers," Zarthok said, through the translator. "Old men and women, children, they had given up fighting. My honor wouldn't let me kill them." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "So your own people did this to you?" Zarthok nodded slowly. "A warrior who shows mercy is no warrior at all. That is our law." "That's not law," Jake said firmly. "That's just cruelty." The alien looked at Jake with those strange yellow eyes. No one had ever called his people's ways cruel before. No one had ever suggested there might be another way. Lisa finished treating the worst of his injuries. "He needs proper medical care. We should bring him back to our ship." Jake nodded, but then his communications officer's voice crackled through his radio. "Captain, we've got company. 3 large ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're heading this way fast." Through the alien ship's broken windows, they could see the approaching vessels. They were the same design as the ship they were on, but these ones had all their weapons powered up. "HFY ships," Zarthok said weakly. "They come to make sure I'm dead." Jake had to make a choice. He could leave Zarthok here and escape with his crew. That would be the safe thing to do. Or he could try to save the alien warrior who had risked everything to protect innocent people. "Can you move?" Jake asked Zarthok. The alien tried to stand but stumbled. Lisa and Ryan quickly helped support his massive weight. "Why do you help me?" Zarthok asked. "I am your enemy." Jake looked into those yellow eyes and saw something he recognized. It was the same look he had seen in the mirror after his first battle, when he had to decide whether to follow orders or follow his conscience. "No," Jake said. "You're not my enemy. Anyone who refuses to kill innocent people is my friend." They made it back to the horizon just as the HFY ships opened fire on the damaged alien vessel. Jake watched the ship explode as they jumped to hyperspace, carrying Zarthok to safety. In the medical bay, as Lisa continued treating his patient, Zarthok kept staring at the humans around him. They moved with purpose, but without fear. They helped him without asking for anything in return. They had risked their lives for someone they had just met. "I don't understand your people," Zarthok said to Jake. "What don't you understand?" "You saved me, but I have nothing to give you. In my world, everything has a price. Everything is about power." Jake sat down next to the medical bed. "Maybe that's the problem with your world." For the first time in his life, Zarthok began to wonder if there might be another way to live. A way where strength came from helping others instead of hurting them. A way where honor meant protecting the weak instead of destroying them. As the horizon flew toward human space, carrying its unlikely passenger, neither Jake nor Zarthok knew that their meeting would change the fate of 2 entire civilizations. They only knew that sometimes doing the right thing was more important than following orders. And sometimes, the greatest victories came not from winning battles, but from choosing compassion over cruelty, even when it seemed impossible. 3 months had passed since Jake brought Zarthok to New Geneva Space Station. The huge alien warrior was healing well, but he still looked confused most of the time. Everything humans did seemed strange to him. Commander Kate Sullivan walked into the medical bay where Zarthok was doing his daily exercises. She watched him lift weights that would crush a normal human. His forearms moved with perfect coordination, but his yellow eyes held a sadness she had never seen before. "Jake, I need to talk to you," Kate said when she found him in the observation deck. Jake turned from the window where he had been watching supply ships dock with the station. "What's wrong?" "The council is asking questions about our guest. They want to know why we're harboring a fugitive from a hostile empire." Jake frowned. "Zarthok isn't a fugitive, he's a refugee. There's a difference. Try explaining that to Admiral Hayes. He thinks we're making a mistake that could start a war." Jake had heard this argument before. Many people thought they should have left Zarthok to die. But Jake couldn't forget the look in the alien's eyes when he talked about refusing to kill innocent people. "Give me more time, Kate. Zarthok is teaching us about his people. That information could save human lives." Kate sighed. "You have 1 more month, then I have to make a decision." Later that day, Jake found Zarthok in the station's workshop. The alien was working with Danny Torres, the station's head mechanic. Danny was a small man with grease under his fingernails and a big smile. He was showing Zarthok how to repair a broken power converter. "You see, you just need to replace this connection here," Danny explained, pointing to a tiny part. Zarthok's huge fingers struggled with the delicate work. In his world, when something broke, you threw it away and took a new one. The idea of fixing things was new to him. "Why do you help me learn this?" Zarthok asked in his improving English. Danny laughed. "Because everyone should know how to fix things. Besides, you're learning fast." Zarthok stared at the human. "But I give you nothing in return." Sure you do. You keep me company while I work. That's worth something. The alien warrior couldn't understand this logic. In Kethvar society, every action had a purpose. Every relationship was about gaining advantage over others. But Danny helped him simply because he wanted to help. That evening, Jake joined Zarthok for dinner in the station's cafeteria. Maria Santos, the head chef, had learned to make foods that Zarthok could eat. She always made sure to prepare extra portions because of his size. Maria, you don't have to go to so much trouble, Jake said as she brought them their meals. Maria waved her hand. It's no trouble. Besides, Zarthok always says thank you. That's more than I get from half the crew. Zarthok looked at his plate of food. It was arranged carefully with colors that pleased the eye. Maria had even added small decorations made from vegetables. Why do you make the food beautiful? He asked Maria. Because eating should be a pleasure, not just a necessity, she replied with a smile. After Maria left, Zarthok turned to Jake. Your people confuse me. How so? Danny teaches me skills I might never use. Maria makes food pretty when it tastes the same either way. Dr. Carter checks on my health even when I feel fine. None of you gain anything from these actions. Jake thought about this while he ate. Maybe that's the point. Maybe doing good things for others is its own reward. Zarthok's yellow eyes studied Jake's face. In my world, such thinking would make you weak, easy to defeat. But you refuse to kill those prisoners. That was the same kind of thinking. The alien warrior was quiet for a long time. Yes, and it made me weak. My own people cast me out. Did it make you weak, though? Or did it make you stronger? Zarthok didn't answer, but Jake could see him thinking about it. Over the following weeks, Jake spent hours with Zarthok, learning about Kethvar culture. The warrior explained how his people lived by the law of strength. The strongest ruled, the weak served or died. There was no middle ground. We were not always this way, Zarthok admitted one day. Long ago, my people were farmers and builders, but resources became scarce. Wars began over water and food. Only the ruthless survived. And now? Now we take what we need from others. It's easier than growing or building. Jake showed Zarthok recordings of Earth's history. The alien watched in amazement as humans fought terrible wars, then worked together to rebuild. He saw pictures of enemies becoming friends, of soldiers turning into peacekeepers. Your people fought each other just like mine, Zarthok observed. Yes, but we learned that cooperation worked better than conquest in the long run. The Kethvar would say you learned to be weak. Jake pulled up a video of human rescue workers saving people from a collapsed building. Is that what you see? Weakness? Zarthok watched the humans risk their lives to save strangers. He saw them work together without thought of reward or recognition. Slowly, he shook his massive head. No, that is not weakness. Captain Amy Brooks arrived on the station with disturbing news. She was part of human intelligence, and her face was grim when she met with Jake and Kate. We've intercepted Kethvar communications, she said. They're mobilizing a massive fleet. They want their warrior back. Jake felt his heart sink. How massive? Over 200 ships, led by someone called War Commander Vextar. He's demanding the return of what he calls stolen property. Kate leaned forward. Stolen property? That's what they're calling Zarthok. They consider him a slave who escaped with help from thieves. Jake stood up angrily. He's not property. He's a person who chose to do the right thing. Try explaining that to an invasion. Fleet, Amy said. That night, Jake found Zarthok on the observation deck staring out at the stars. The alien's massive form was silhouetted against the window. You heard about the fleet? Jake said. Yes. Vextar was my battle brother once. He will not stop until he has me back or I am dead. Then we'll fight them. Zarthok turned his yellow eyes to Jake. Your ships are fast but weak. Kethvar vessels are built for war. You cannot win. Maybe not. But we won't hand you over to be executed. Why? The question came out like a roar. Why do you risk everything for one alien who brings you nothing but trouble? Jake moved to stand beside his friend at the window. Because that's what friends do. Zarthok stared at him. Friends? Yes. You're my friend, Zarthok. That means I'll stand by you no matter what. The alien warrior felt something break inside, his chest. In all his years of battle and conquest, no one had ever called him friend. No one had ever promised to stand by him when things got difficult. I don't understand friendship, he said quietly. You will, Jake replied. You're learning. Zarthok looked back at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there Vextar's fleet was coming for him. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't facing danger alone. He had something the Kethvar had never taught him about. He had hope. Jake Morrison, Zarthok said, using Jake's full name in the formal way of his people. If I must choose between my old life and this new thing you call friendship, I choose friendship. Jake smiled. Good choice. Neither of them knew that in just a few days that choice would be tested in ways they couldn't imagine. But they did know that whatever came next, they would face it together. The alarm bells rang through New Geneva Station as the Kethvar fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Jake rushed to the command center where screens showed over 200 massive warships arranged in perfect battle formation. At the center was a ship larger than all the others, its hull covered in battle scars and weapon ports. That's the Bloodfang, Zarthok said quietly. He had insisted on coming to the command center despite Kate's protests. Vextar's flagship, Admiral Frank Carter, Lisa's father, stood at the main display with his jaw clenched tight. His defense fleet had only 30 ships, and most of them were exploration vessels with light weapons. We're getting a transmission, the communications officer announced. The main screen flickered and showed a Kethvar warrior even larger than Zarthok. His gray skin was covered in ritual scars and his forearms each bore weapons. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. I am War Commander Vextar of the Kethvar Empire. You hold stolen property that belongs to us. Return the traitor Zarthok immediately, or we will take him by force. Jake stepped forward. I'm Captain Jake Morrison. Zarthok isn't property. He's a free being who chose to stay with us. Vextar's yellow eyes burned with anger. The coward fled from justice. He refused to follow orders and bring honor to his clan. You humans have poisoned his mind with your weakness. We showed him kindness, Jake replied. If that's poison to you, then maybe you're the one with the problem. Zarthok moved beside Jake, his massive form dwarfing the human captain. Hello, old friend, he said in his native language. Vextar's expression changed to one of disgust. You stand with these soft creatures against your own kind? You have fallen farther than I thought possible. I have risen higher than I ever dreamed, Zarthok answered. These humans taught me that strength comes from protecting others, not destroying them. Lies, Vextar roared. You have 1 hour to surrender yourself or we will glass every human world we can find. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Admiral Carter turned to his officers. All ships, battle stations. We'll make them pay for every inch. Admiral, Jake said. Let me try something first. The first skirmish happened near the edge of the system. Jake commanded a small squadron of fast attack ships, using Zarthok's knowledge of Kethvar tactics to hit weak points in their formation. But the alien warships were built like fortresses, with thick armor and powerful shields. Their rear engines are vulnerable, Zarthok advised over the comm, but you have to get close. Jake's ship, the Defiant, swooped under a Kethvar cruiser and fired at its engine ports. The alien ship shuddered but kept fighting. Its return fire nearly destroyed the Defiant's shields. Fall back, Jake ordered. We can't trade shots with them. The human ships retreated, but they had learned something important. The Kethvar vessels were slow to turn, and their weapons had blind spots. It wasn't much, but it was something. Over the next 2 days, both fleets fought a series of running battles. The humans used their speed and Zarthok's intelligence to avoid major losses, but they couldn't do any real damage to the invasion fleet. Meanwhile, Vextar's ships moved steadily toward the inner system where human colonies waited defenseless. During one battle, Jake's ship was hit by a plasma cannon and lost power. The Defiant drifted helplessly while Kethvar fighters closed in for the kill. But Jake's wingman, Commander Steve Parker, refused to abandon him. "Get out of here, Steve," Jake shouted over the radio. "That's an order." "Sorry, Captain. Radio's breaking up. Can't hear you," Steve replied as he flew his damaged ship between Jake and the enemy fighters. Steve's sacrifice bought time for the Defiant's engines to restart, but his ship was destroyed in the process. Jake watched his friend die and felt a cold anger settle in his chest. "This has to end," he told Zarthok when they returned to the fleet. "It will end when I surrender myself," Zarthok said. "I won't let more humans die for me." "No." Jake's voice was firm. "We don't abandon friends." The breaking point came when a Kethvar strike force broke through the human defensive line and attacked a transport ship full of civilians. Jake and Zarthok were on a patrol mission when they received the distress call. "Emergency! Emergency! This is the civilian transport Morningstar. We're under attack and losing life support. We have 300 families on board, including children." Jake pushed his ship's engines to their limit, but they were too far away. By the time they arrived, the transport was venting atmosphere and debris. The Kethvar ships had already left. Jake and Zarthok worked frantically to rescue survivors. They managed to save about half the people on board, but many families were lost. Jake held a crying child whose parents had been killed, and he felt something break inside him. Zarthok watched the rescue operation with growing horror. These weren't soldiers. They were just ordinary people trying to live their lives, men, women, and children who had never hurt anyone. "This is what my people do," he said quietly. "This is what I was trained to do. But you chose differently," Jake reminded him. That night, Zarthok made a decision that would change everything. He sent a message to Vextar, challenging him to single combat according to ancient Kethvar law. "If I win, your fleet withdraws," Zarthok said in the message. "If you win, the humans will surrender me to you and submit to Kethvar rule." Jake was furious when he found out. "You can't do this. Vextar has been training for combat his whole life. You've been eating Maria's cooking and learning to fix engines." "It's the only way to stop the killing," Zarthok replied. "Your people shouldn't die for my choices." Admiral Carter called an emergency meeting. "We can't let him do this. It's suicide." "It's also our only chance," said Captain Amy Brooks. "Our losses are mounting, and we can't protect the colonies much longer." Jake paced the room like a caged animal. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Zarthok said from the doorway. "I've accepted the challenge. The duel will take place on the asteroid Gamma 7 in 12 hours. The next morning, ships from both fleets gathered around the small asteroid. A clear dome had been constructed on the surface where the duel would take place. Jake suited up to accompany Zarthok as his second, a human custom that the Kethvar reluctantly accepted. "I'm scared," Jake admitted as they walked toward the dome. "So am I," Zarthok replied. "But fear is not the enemy. Cruelty is." Inside the dome, Vextar waited with his traditional weapons, a plasma sword and energy shield. He was magnificent and terrible, a perfect example of Kethvar warrior culture. His muscles rippled under his armor and his eyes burned with the fire of a born conqueror. Zarthok carried similar weapons, but his stance was different. Months of living with humans had changed him. He stood straighter with less aggression and more purpose. "You look soft, old friend," Vextar sneered. "These humans have made you weak. They have made me strong in ways you cannot understand," Zarthok replied. The duel began with a clash of plasma swords that lit up the dome. Vextar was faster and more skilled, driving Zarthok back with a series of brutal attacks. It quickly became clear that Zarthok was outmatched. But then something unexpected happened. Jake and the human observers began chanting Zarthok's name, linking arms around the dome. Other humans joined in, and soon hundreds of voices were calling out support for their alien friend. Zarthok had never heard anything like it. In Kethvar culture, battles were fought alone. But here were people offering their strength, their hope, their friendship to help him continue fighting. The sound gave him new energy, and he began to fight back. Not with the brutal efficiency of a Kethvar warrior, but with the determination of someone protecting his family. The duel raged on, neither fighter able to gain a decisive advantage. But as it continued, something changed in Vextar's expression. He began to see what Jake and the others had seen in Zarthok, not weakness, but a different kind of strength. Finally, both warriors stood facing each other, exhausted and bleeding. Their weapons were raised, but neither moved to strike the killing blow. "Why do they chant for you?" Vextar asked. "You are not even their kind." "Because kindness has no species," Zarthok answered. "Because friendship is stronger than fear." For a long moment, the two warriors stared at each other. Then slowly, Vextar lowered his weapon. "You have found something we lost long ago," he said. "Something worth more than conquest." The duel was over, but the real battle for the future was just beginning. The silence in the dome was broken by the sound of Vexitar's weapon hitting the floor. Both fleets watched in amazement as the mighty war commander knelt before Zarthok in the traditional pose of respect. "You have won without defeating me," Vextar said. "You have shown me something I thought was lost forever." Jake hurried into the dome as the medical teams arrived. Both warriors were injured, but alive. More importantly, something had changed in Vextar's eyes. The burning anger was gone, replaced by confusion and wonder. "What happens now?" Jake asked. Vextar struggled to his feet, his forearms shaking with exhaustion. "According to our law, I must withdraw my fleet, but there is more to discuss." Over the next several hours, representatives from both sides met aboard the neutral asteroid station. Vextar sat across from Admiral Carter and Jake, with Zarthok between them, like a bridge connecting two worlds. "Half my fleet has already left," Vextar admitted. "The older commanders refuse to accept what they saw today. They think I have been infected by human weakness." "And the other half?" Admiral Carter asked. "The younger warriors are curious. They want to understand what made Zarthok fight so hard for people who are not his own kind." Jake leaned forward. "Maybe we can show them." Captain Amy Brooks brought disturbing news from the intelligence briefings. "The Kethvar Empire is splitting apart. Some factions want to continue the old ways of conquest. Others are questioning everything." "A civil war?" Admiral Carter asked. "Possibly. Or maybe something better. Maybe change." Vextar nodded grimly. "Change is coming whether we want it or not. The question is what kind of change." Over the following weeks, a strange thing happened. Some of the younger Kethvar warriors asked permission to visit human ships and stations. They wanted to see how humans lived and worked together. The first visitor was Sub-Commander Thekmor, barely an adult by Kethvar standards. Jake personally showed him around New Geneva Station. The young alien's eyes went wide when he saw humans and aliens working, side by side in the workshops. "Where are your slaves?" Thekmor asked through the translator. "We don't have slaves," Jake explained. "Everyone here is free to choose their work." "But who forces them to work if they don't want to?" "No one. They work because they want to contribute to something bigger than themselves." Thekmor watched Danny Torres teaching a group of young humans how to repair engines. The mechanic was patient and kind, never shouting or threatening. When someone made a mistake, Danny simply showed them the correct way again. "In our world, failure is punished," Thekmor said quietly. "This human teaches as if he wants them to succeed." "He does want them to succeed," Jake replied. "Their success is his success." The young Kethvar warrior spent 3 days on the station. He ate meals with humans, worked alongside them, and even helped Maria Santos in the kitchen. When it was time for him to leave, there were tears in his yellow eyes. "I want to learn more," he told Zarthok. "Can I come back?" "If your commander allows it," Zarthok replied. More visits followed. Some Kethvar warriors were disgusted by what they saw and left quickly. But others stayed longer, asking questions and forming friendships with humans. They began to understand that cooperation could achieve more than domination. Dr. Lisa Carter started a medical exchange program. Kethvar healers learned human techniques for treating injuries without causing pain. In return, they taught humans about alien biology and medicine. Pain was considered necessary for healing in our culture, explained healer Zexara, a elderly, Kethvar female. We believed suffering made warriors stronger. Sometimes healing requires gentleness, Lisa replied. The body repairs itself better when it's not fighting pain at the same time. Zexara practiced the new techniques on volunteer patients. When she saw how much faster they healed with proper pain management, she wept tears of regret for all the unnecessary suffering she had caused over the years. Meanwhile, Vextar faced growing pressure from the Kethvar High Council. They demanded he return to the Empire and explain his failure to retrieve Zarthok. Some called for his execution as a traitor. I won't go back, Vextar told Jake and Zarthok during one of their regular meetings. I've seen too much to pretend. The old ways are right. Then stay, Jake suggested. Help us build something new. You would trust me after I tried to destroy you? Zarthok taught us that people can change, Jake replied. You're proving him right. The real test came when a Kethvar hardliner fleet arrived to arrest Vextar and reclaim the warriors who had gone soft. War Commander Grixnal led 200 ships and demanded the immediate return of all Kethvar personnel. But something unexpected happened. The young warriors who had been living with humans refused to go back. They stood together with their human friends and declared their intention to stay. You have been corrupted by alien poison, Grixnal snarled during the communication. You bring shame on your clans. Thekmor stepped forward, his stance straight and proud. I bring honor to my clan by choosing to protect life instead of destroying. We are Kethvar, Grixnal roared. We bow to no one. We bow to no one, Thekmor agreed, but we can choose to stand with others as equals. The confrontation might have led to another war, but Jake had an idea. He proposed a demonstration of the new alliance. Human and Kethvar crews would work together on a joint mission to help a colony in distress. The planet Kepler 442b had been struck by massive earthquakes. Millions of people needed rescue and medical aid. Jake suggested that humans and Kethvar work together to save lives. Grixnal laughed coldly. The Kethvar do not rescue weaklings. We conquer or we destroy. Then watch us save them, Vextar replied, and see what real strength looks like. The rescue mission became a turning point. Human ships provided speed and medical supplies while Kethvar vessels offered heavy lifting power and strong workers. Together, they saved over 2 million lives in 3 days. Grixnal watched in silence as his former subordinates worked alongside humans to pull survivors from collapsed buildings. He saw Kethvar warriors risk their lives to save alien children. He watched humans share their food and medicine with people they had never met. On the third day, a human child ran up to a Kethvar rescue worker and hugged his massive leg, thanking him for saving her family. The warrior, a grizzled veteran, named Korksival, carefully patted the child's head with one enormous hand. Why do you do this? Grixnal asked Korksival later. These aliens mean nothing to you. They mean everything to me, Korksival replied. They are the future we're building together. That night, Grixnal made a decision that shocked everyone. He dismissed half his fleet back to the Empire and asked permission to join the rescue effort with his remaining ships. The Kethvar High Council will call me a traitor, he admitted to Jake and Vextar. History will call you a hero, Jake replied. 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. Human and Kethvar ships patrolled together in mixed squadrons. On the station, beings from both species worked side by side, building a future neither could have imagined alone. Zarthok joined him at the window. The alien warrior now wore a new uniform that combined elements of both cultures. He had been given the title of Bridgewalker, honoring his role in connecting two civilizations. Do you ever regret it? Jake asked. Giving up your old life? Zarthok was quiet for a moment, watching a group of human and Kethvar children playing together in the station's park. I didn't give up my old life, he said finally. I found my real life. In the distance, more ships were arriving. Former enemies becoming friends. Warriors becoming protectors. Conquerors becoming builders. What do you think happens next? Jake asked. Zarthok smiled, an expression he had learned from humans. We keep building bridges. We keep choosing friendship over fear. We keep proving that the universe is big enough for everyone to find their place in it. Jake nodded and put his hand on his friend's massive shoulder. Together, they watched the sunrise over a new era of cooperation and hope. The galaxy was changing, one friendship at a time. And it all started with a simple choice to help someone in need, even when it seemed impossible. Sometimes the greatest victories came not from winning battles, but from opening hearts and changing minds. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.